Alright, hey YouTube, welcome back. Gonna do a video. It's gonna go up on my channel, Y Inc., and on Buckknife Parabellum's channel over here. Did another video, don't know what the release order is gonna be on the PSA daggers a minute ago. This one is an idea that Buckknife here had, talking about basically how would we start over, prepping wise.
Yeah.
We're gonna take this from two different angles. First one's gonna be if we were, 14, 15, kind of back in high school days, how would we get started with the world is now, and if we had to start over from now with our current jobs and all that kind of stuff, how would we start? So getting started, we'll have Parabellum go first with his ideas of where he would start at 14, 15. He's a little bit closer to that than I am. And then I'll go and give my perspectives on how I would start. So.
Yeah. First, what I want to think about this, I'm thinking priorities wise, and also the limitations of a young teenager up until they turn 18 and can go buy firearms. When I think about the priorities and what I would actually be able to purchase, I'm thinking medical food, water, maybe some camping gear. I'm trying to think back to when I was like 15, 16. I was just about to get a job, which is different than you because you started working, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
And they were going extinct.
Yeah. We'll touch on medical first. So, let's see. It's a whole lot easier to know where stuff is when it's on your body. Tourniquets. They're going for $30-$40 right now.
About 36-ish.
Yeah. For a while they were going for $60 a piece,
yeah.
And that was not fun. Just $30-$35, maybe $40 shipped, and you have a tourniquet that can save somebody's life. As far as find a 15, 16-year-old kid finding like in-person training other than just watching a YouTube video on how to do it, I would say go to your local there's a local fire department somewhere in your area, and if they're good at what they do, they're also good at teaching, and they most of the time enjoy it. When I was working as a full-time firefighter, if I had like a 15, 16-year-old kid come up to the fire station during business hours, because if none of you know, there are business hours where the fire station is open to the public to walk in, and obviously like the bunk areas and stuff are off limits from the general public, but as far as the bays and the offices, stuff like that. So if you go there and talk to the chief or the admin and go like, hey, I just bought this tourniquet, can one of your guys teach me how to use it? They're going to be more than happy to teach you how to do that. I know I would have. So like medical, so like that's where I would get training. Is there's a lot of guys in your local area that have a lot of knowledge and also most of the time instruct as well. And then other medical stuff, just first aid kits, band-aids, antiseptic stuff, boo-boo stuff. That you can pick up at Walmart in the health section. Or, it's not called the health section. What's it called?
The pharmacy.
Yeah, like the pharmacy area.
It is. usually pharmacy, health, and beauty.
Yeah,
All in that same section.
Just get stuff like that. Don't look, please. I know you're 15 and 16. You probably don't have a whole lot of money. Please do not buy a tourniquet that doesn't say North American Rescue. There are going to be tourniquets on Amazon that cost $10, and they're going to break. They will break. There are instructors that take them to classes to break them for fun, as an example.
Baron Bennett has a couple of videos of him breaking tourniquets like that, so
yeah,
it's just not worth it.
You're buying a tourniquet to save someone's life, so please don't buy cheap Chinese junk. Buy North American Rescue. Let's see. This is why I take notes. Let's see. We got medical, food, water. Bags of rice don't cost but what, $4 or $5?
Right about that. There's a lot of shelf stable foods you can get at the grocery store for not a whole lot. Even starting out, like when I started out back in high school, I would I had a little bit of money coming in, so I'd go with my mom grocery shopping, and when I got a chance, I'd buy like chicken noodle soup and stuff like that I like to eat. The chicken noodle soup usually has at least 2 year shelf life, so that's a good way to start a food prep. As far as waters, getting bottled waters is a great place to start. And then from there, get water filtration and just water storage. All that's pretty easy and cheap to do. Doesn't require you to be a certain age. And a lot of it you can get off Amazon these days. Looking for gear, stuff like that as far as camping. Your surplus stores are a great resource. I'm going to jump in real quick. What I would start with is, this is very similar to how I started in the preparedness game, was knowledge. Knowledge is power. Like, you cannot understate enough knowing how to handle different situations, because you need less gear the more you know, and the gear you have will go further. Yeah, having more gear is nice, but if you know how to do some basic bushcrafting stuff and some other just like general handyman things, even you can finagle and create your own gear as you go. So going to the library and renting books on survival and emergency preparedness. One book that I started out reading was, I can't remember the name of the author. I'll put it in the description below later. But it's Creek Stewart. That's the guy's name, Creek Stewart. He has a couple books out, but the one I started reading was Build the Perfect Bug Out Bag. And that's a really helpful book just to start understanding things to consider and what your gear needs to actually fulfill. And yeah, I would definitely just start by reading as much as you can, watching YouTube videos. If you're part of a church or any real group of people, churches are great because they have people with moral compasses. But talk to the older guys and the people that have been around for a while and lived through a lot. They have suggestions, they have advice, especially like for us, we live in a military town, so having access to guys like that to talk about things that they've seen in other parts of the world, or even missionaries that have gone to third world countries and stuff, is really helpful, because you start to get an idea of like, well, if things go down here, what do I need first, and how much of it do I need? The bigger thing even with that is setting your priorities of prepping to who you're prepping for. So when you're young and you don't have a lot of money coming in, you're really just prepping for yourself, because you can't afford to do more than that. But if you get a good foundation there going, as you get older and you have more money coming in, you can increase the amount of people you're prepping for, to your family. And at this point, we're getting to the point in our preps where we're looking more community-based and building a community to work with and prepare for. So that we have better survivability. Yeah, the biggest thing is just start where you're at, whatever your income is, whatever you have. Just start making some little steps. There's a ton of great resources on YouTube that'll break down of things to consider with like the food that you stock. We're not going to get into a whole lot of that here, but there's a bunch of resources like Sensible Prepper. I watched a lot of his stuff. Bear Independent even has some good stuff on that. His is a little bit more advanced. Pepper Classroom's got some good stuff. There's so many videos on YouTube these days, even though YouTube went through a great purge not too long ago. Some of y'all probably still don't even remember that, but I remember a lot of the videos that I watched were getting taken down and channels getting strikes and stuff for teaching people how to be self-sufficient. But there's still good resources on there. And yeah, just save your money, be wise with your money, and start with your food, water, and medical. I would say that water would be your highest priority because it's the beyond shelter, which if you have a house, you're good on shelter to start with. So get water because you're going to need that first. Then after that, get food. Then after food, get your medical. We already covered the places to start with the water. He covered a good bit of places to start with medical. With that, even you can piecemeal a lot of this together just whenever you have a little bit of extra money, buy one or two extra things. I know I was a little extreme when I was a kid, so even like for Christmases, I would ask for medical supplies and water filtration and all kinds of stuff like that for Christmas presents.
The BK7.
Yeah, I love that knife. Wish I had that here to show you. That's back at my house. But yeah, so just start where you can and also plan with the future in mind. So don't just spend every dime you have right here and now. Prepping is about being prepared for the future. So set some money aside so that when you do hit milestones like 18 and you can buy a rifle or a shotgun, you can do that. Or you're saving up to get a good car, you can get something that's four-wheel drive. Because all of this will increase your survivability in different situations. But yeah, so once you have your priorities set, you kind of know the likely scenarios in your area and things like that, you can start prepping from there. Because I know when I was starting, zombie apocalypse stuff was everywhere. But what I realized is that zombies aren't likely. That's pretty obvious. But I needed a scenario to plan around to help me figure out what I needed. So I looked at my area and what was common, and we had a bad hurricane that had come through not too long ago from when I started. And so I was like, okay, well, we lost power for a little while. So fridge isn't going to be much help, so I need more shelf-stable foods. So I started looking into that, like I was talking about getting the canned soups and stuff like that. And honestly, for
a little propane stove.
Yeah, little camp stoves, stuff like that.
Or whatever. Even a jet boil.
Something like that. But even like for food specifically, one of the things I did is I got ramen noodles because it was super cheap and I could afford it. Yep. And that's not great, but it's food. It's
not super calories. Great for you, but
it's
at the very least, it's morale.
Yeah, it's better than starving. So I started with that and getting that kind of set up, and as income increased and things like that, I started doing more, and I was fortunate enough as well. I was able to talk with my mom and my siblings and get them on board with it to an extent, so they would help, and we wound up with 2 or 3 weeks worth of food pretty quickly. Just some extra canned goods of stuff we already ate. So that's the other part of this when you're dealing with the food side. A lot of people go out and they'll buy a bunch of this stuff because it's shelf stable, and they've never eaten it, and that is a horrible, horrible idea.
If your family likes spaghetti, buy extra noodles and spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, do stuff like that because
because the last thing you want to do when you're already I'll try to keep my language. The last thing you want to do when you're already in a really bad spot and you're already struggling, the last thing you want to do is be eating something that, like, well, I bought all this because it was shelf stable and it tastes like crap. And so that's the last thing you want to do. So, like, if you enjoy spaghetti,
start with stuff find things that are shelf stable. Then as you progress, you start getting into MREs and Mountain House meals and stuff like that. What I would always do is I'd buy like a little sampling setup. I'd buy a couple different flavors of Mountain Houses and different MRE meals and try them to see what I liked. Once I kind of started to figure out, and I also was going camping at the time a lot, and I wanted a good yeah, but just figuring out what I actually like to eat of those, so I knew what to stock that would I'd look forward to eating in the worst case scenario. But yeah, so I think that'll wrap it up for this part of the video on like where we would start back in high school days and things like that. This video is probably getting a little long, so we'll probably cut here and do another video on starting back here as adults, square one kind of thing. So,
last two things I'll say is you when it comes to medical stuff, like when it comes to bushcraft stuff, yeah, you can improvise stuff like that. When it comes to medical stuff, if you plan to improvise, you plan to fail. Medical is the one thing where knowledge is awesome, and you should have that, but you should not be trying to tourniquet somebody's leg with a belt. It can work. It has worked. It's iffy at best. So tourniquets are going to be your best bet. And then what was the second thing I was going to say? Yeah, second thing I'm going to say is, if you're 15, 16, you feel the conviction to start doing this stuff, make sure that you're not going against your parents when it comes to certain items, because eventually you can buy those items when you are out of their house, and it sucks because I was in that spot where I wanted to buy a gun, and I had the ability to buy a gun, and my mom didn't want one in the house. Oh well, right? So I ended up, leaving it at Y's house. But yeah, those are the last two things I got. Is respect your parents, and don't plan to improvise because you're going to prepare to fail.
yeah. Honor thy father and thy mother. Peace, guys.